From America and across Europe, the big names have brought the big money to London, and this game is all about making your friends go broke. Each player is starting with a minimum of $100,000 of their own cash, and if they lose it, they can simply reach into their own pockets and buy back in. The starting lineup for this game is a who's who of poker. Lithuanian-born Tony G now lives in Australia. He is a player who likes to impose himself at the table, and after tasting a little bit of success last year, is hungry for more. Alan Cunningham has picked up 5 World Series of Poker bracelets and has nearly $10 million worth of cash in the bank. Another American, Andy Block, is a rock, paper, scissors champion and has nearly $3 million in poker tournament prize money. Chris Jesus Ferguson is a man used to success. Living in Las Vegas, he has $6 million in tournament prize money. Phil Ivey is widely regarded as the best cash game player in the world. This golf fanatic will be confident of adding to his tournament winnings. Heralding from Finland, Patrick Antonius now lives in Las Vegas. He is one to watch, and this tennis player will be looking for the aces. Brian Townsend is a famous online player, but he is used to the big time and is a regular high-stakes cash game player. Hello and welcome to the FullTiltPoker.com $1 Million Cash Game in association with 50 London. This is the biggest no-limit cash game to ever be televised anywhere in the world. And with 11 of the sharpest card players at the table, we have already seen some fantastic action. Let's get you straight to your commentators then. Gary Jones is alongside David Tuckman.
I'm really impressed with Tony G's play today. He really has not made any mistakes.
I don't think I was folding.
He's had the hands, he's played them well. He lost the minimum when he was behind and got the maximum when he was in front. And some players have played bad against him too. The King-Queen of Patrick Antonius, when he was up against Patrick Antonius, allowing him to catch a card and then paying him off.
That's not tough. I'm an amateur.
Tony G with Kojak there.
2000 plate.
Racing up to 2000.
It's almost as if the confidence is just feeding upon itself. With each hand, he gets more and more confidence.
A call from Phil with pocket nines, and a call from the big blind of Patrick Antonius with the weak ace, ace-4.
Queen 9 ace.
Well, oh wow, what a flop here. We've got a monster. We've got a set of 9s for Phil Ivey. We've got an ace here for Antonius.
5,000.
He's got top pair. Ivey with bottom set. And if you get cute with it, Tony G, he's got a gut shot here. He can catch a 10 to make Broadway.
Phil Ivey leading out with his set. He's not interested in just trying to pick the 5,000-6,000 up there or get a small continuation bet.
Pass.
Tony G gets away from his King-Jack. And it's just Patrick Antonius and Phil Ivey, the two big losers of the game so far today.
Ace.
Oh, wow, and that is such a gin card there. The ace of spades on the turn. Antonius got trip aces, but Ivey's got a full house 9s full of aces. The pot is already nearly $17,000.
It does bring a flush as well, so that may slow Patrick Antonius down. And, of course, his kicker isn't that strong either with the 4. But I'll be shocked if he doesn't call this.
Ivey is not out of the woods, though. A queen, an ace, or a 4 would kill Ivey. Pot is $31,700.
Do you think there's actually any way that Patrick Antonius can actually lay this hand down? There's not really a lot he can actually beat here.
Called 15.
Well, he definitely doesn't have a raising hand. He doesn't have much of a kicker. He can't beat an ace, he can't beat spades, and he can't beat a set.
Fast card.
Here's the river.
4.
Wow, what a card!
Oh, and this is just one of those days where if you're Phil Ivey, just stick your head somewhere and go somewhere else. This is terrible. A 4 on the river, and Antonius has made full house. The pot is already $46,000. I don't see how Ivey doesn't lose all his money here. You got to realize if a queen had come out or an ace, you get away from the nines, but not the 4.
4 is the absolute joker for Patrick Antonius.
Unbelievable.
That's all I can do.
He's played his get out of jail free card. And now it's just a question of how much he can get out of it. That's a $40,000 bet from Phil Ivey.
$40,000 bet. The pot is now $86,000, and the action is on Antonius. And do you just move in here?
I think he does. I think he's just going to move his chips in. He's got the right amount for a standard kind of raise here.
And sure enough, there it is. Patrick Antonius moves all in.
Patrick moves all in.
How much is it? How much is he moving in for?
I think they pretty well had almost exactly the same amount of chips at the start of this hand.
You're right. Patrick Antonius started the hand with $143,000. Phil Ivey with $142,000. And this pot size is $207,000. I want to say about 90 to call.
85.
That's going to make this pot almost $300,000. And I can't see how Phil can get away from this. He's not going to give him ace-queen. He can't really give him ace-9. The only hand he's really losing to here is ace-4.
But would Patrick Antonius make this move with anything else?
King flush. The pot's offering him 2 to 1.
Unbelievable.
Call.
And
He
Phil
says
Ivey
call.
is called. He is called. This is the biggest pot in the history of televised poker in Europe. It's unbelievable.
Full house.
$300,000 almost in this pot. And Phil Ivey desperately unlucky on that 4 on the river. And Patrick Antonius wins a monster.
40.
And we can have a quick catch up with the man in second at the moment. You've put the man in your right into a bit of a pile. How do you think things are going right now?
It's going okay. I managed to beat Phil in one very big pot, and that's the reason I'm up. I guess he had a very big hand, and I think I got lucky on a river.
You've obviously been...
I think he had nines probably. He flopped his head. Not sure, but that's what I think he had.
Button is in front of Patrick Antonius, who just won one of the biggest pots in the history of televised poker. Almost $300,000. He was struggling today until that. Just like there, he goes down from down $50,000 to up
Pass.
88.
And that's a big smile from Patrick.
2,000.
I'm not surprised. Took a while coming, but
Pass.
he's in good shape now. And here's Andy Block raising it up with pocket 10s. He's got Phil Ivey behind him with ace-7.
Now Phil Ivey, who just lost that huge pot, has rebought for $200,000 more. He is now in this game for nearly $500,000.
Cool.
Someone's going to see the flop. I put my hand up. Last guy left.
10s for Andy Block, 10-7 for Tony G. A 10 would have meant a little
3,000.
bit of trouble, but it's pretty safe for Tony G at the moment.
Cool.
Well,
He calls though. It's almost like floating one off and see what happens.
well, there's not actually a lot here that Andy Block can beat that he's
Check.
getting called with on the flop.
Check.
All you can beat maybe is 6-7.
Nine.
And obviously Tony G called the flop.
Intending to bluff it. And here's the bluff, but I think leaving it to the river makes it a bit easier for Andy Block to call, but the truth is, what can he beat here?
He can't beat anything, and he throws it away. He can't beat the king, can't beat the 5.
Not much.
And look at that, Tony Chi shows it to him, rubs it in his face.
Lucky. The only way I could win it is if I make a move. That was
The only way you can win it is if the board pairs a 5 on the turn.
Or, but I still have to make a move either way.
Yes. Board pairs a pair of the 5.
I could catch runner too.
100 in, please.
So you've got to have heart and commitment.
Nice hand.
100.
Always trying to tell people.
You got to have heart to play. Easy to make moves like that when you're $250,000 in front. He is the biggest winner at the moment, Tony G.
Yeah.
He now has over $400,000 in
You know
front
me,
of him.
I'm a show boy. That's why I'm an amateur. Because I
Pass.
have fun. I'm not here to like be really tired and tense and hide all my cards. I show all the time. I don't believe that, and I don't buy that. You see how many times I've been
Pass.
shown?
Call the presses. Chris
2,000.
Ferguson has actually spoken.
That's true, I saved a lot of money.
Chris Ferguson actually
I'm
talking.
showing things off. I'm a show off.
Show off how bad you play the hand.
Pretty impressive to actually get Tony G to get Chris Ferguson
6
rattled.
total.
A raise on the button from Brian Townsend, trying to sneak a little raise and blind steal in there while everyone's having the conversation, but Alan Cunningham having none of it.
To get started, one player is made the nominated dealer or button. Then the 2 players to the left post the small and big blinds. These are force bets to get the action started. The big blind is always double the small, but unlike a tournament, the blinds rarely change. However, they are sometimes increased to spice up the action. We start here with $300 and $600. There's also an ante of $100 per player, which must be paid if they want to play in a hand. Once the blinds and antes are posted, everyone is dealt 2 cards. We have a round of betting. Then 3 cards are placed face up on the table, called the flop. These are the community cards for all the players to use. Then we have another round of betting, after which the 4th card, the turn, is placed in the middle. This is followed by some more betting and the last community card, the river. Then we finish off with a final round of betting. The best 5-card hand takes the money.
Don't tilt up on us, Andy.
He's
Pass.
keeping the aggressive verbal out.
2,000.
No longer fun when Bunny's got the gun.
Pass.
Andy doesn't look that upset about it,
It's true. You know.
but Chris Jesus Ferguson is.
Call. Pass.
Someone came to enjoy themselves, and that would be
The
Tony
pros
G.
have so much control.
Calls the raise
Don't tilt
of
up.
Phil Ivey.
Fold, fold.
These two have
The Ivey
clashed a
firing
number of
there.
times already to the flop.
You know, Tony G's in really bad shape here. He's got ace-10 to Phil Ivey's ace-jack. Both players miss.
4,000.
He's just made a call to bluff. Let's see if he's going to try and do something similar this time. Yep.
Now, in this case, he's actually calling in position. Oh, and there, look at that. There's the 10. He can't do anything wrong.
Check. Check.
An 8 on the river, as well as a jack. Good for Phil. 5, no good.
Check. 10.
And Tony G is going to bet here. He's betting for value. Phil Ivey not going to get involved.
Card. Which one do you want to see?
$1 million cash game
That's
after
rabbit
105 hands. It's Tony's world. He's up to $410,000, up over 260. Patrick Antonius, courtesy of that huge hand against Phil Ivey, is up over $52,000. Chris Ferguson up over 26. But the real story is Phil Ivey, last year's winner, is down over $300,000.
Call.
Well, he's out of this one. There's a raise from Patrick Antonius with his ace-4, and Tony G once again playing.
No, I'm the one
It
putting
really
my
is
hand
the
up to play
Tony
every
G
hand.
show right
Imagine I
now.
wasn't in the game. How many big pots would you have? There you go.
Wow, if he tries to make some sort of clever move in this one, he's going to get into trouble.
Whatever you say.
Well, somehow Tony G he's picked every right spot.
4,000.
Take it. Next time I'll raise it, don't worry.
And see, look at that. It's almost an innate ability. He knows when to fold them.
He managed to keep out of that one.
Be happy. Probably lay down the best hand for you.
I'm a happy player.
2001.
Happy-go-lucky.
Pass.
And you have the
I'm a
heart.
happy player.
That 50,000, that was incredible.
Call.
Kind of just dribbling.
He's
chips.
talking and calling Tony G, this time with ace-9.
Call.
And again, he's
Pass.
calling with a
Little
dominated
Orlando
hand.
block keeps waiting for
He's
it.
got ace-9, Patrick with ace-10.
Not coming yet.
And look at this, another ace out there. Chris Ferguson with ace-7.
Come on.
Call.
Well, Phil Ivey can't resist.
Squeeze me out. You squeeze.
5 ways, and look at this.
Full profile.
A full house for Alan Cunningham. He's got
Check.
He's got pocket 4s. He's got 4s full of 6s. Nobody else has got anything.
Check.
Yeah, he's unlucky no one else has caught any of this in a 5-handed
Check.
pot. No one's even got an overpair.
Check.
Friends.
Goes.
Friends check.
He's going to try and find someone with something here.
The only problem for Alan Cunningham, he has so much respect at this
6.
table. Nobody usually makes moves on him.
I have an upside down 6.
They're all dropping.
You win.
There goes the last one, and Alan Cunningham's going to win that pot.
And that's the frustrating thing sometimes. Alan Cunningham earlier had pocket 4s, flopped a set, and lost a pot. This time he has pocket 4s, flops a set, and wins a small pot. Still down $35,900.
100, please.
Doesn't stop the fact that he's a phenomenal player.
Well, he did manage to get away from that set earlier on. Chris Ferguson, who got off to the best start, was up to around 50, up about 50,000 earlier on. Now only up 24,000. I say only, it's still not a bad day's work.
100, please.
Buttons in front of Phil Ivey. Big blind Brian Townsend, SB Rugby, on his online account. One of the most famous internet poker players.
Pass.
I wonder how long Brian's going to actually have to play the big game in the Bellagio before he
Pass.
gets known as something
Pass.
more than an online player. He definitely cut his teeth that way. Made an awful lot of money. Not really someone you see on the tournament circuit,
2000.
but he has played the biggest cash games in the world.
Pass.
And I don't just mean online.
Call. Pass.
Right now he's just keeping out of the way, leaving this pot between Chris Ferguson and Patrick Antonius.
Check.
9-10 king. A good flop for Patrick Antonius.
Yeah, Chris Ferguson not in good shape here at all. You can see the odds. But he does have position, and you wonder if he bets here. Maybe he can represent the king.
I'm willing to bet he doesn't get rid of Patrick Antonius. Wouldn't surprise me if Patrick makes a small re-raise here to find out where he is. Also doesn't want to give a free card for a queen or jack.
Call.
And he is going to call this. Pot is now 11,300. And the turn is a jack of diamonds. That is a scary card for both players.
Check.
This is one of those spots. If Ferguson would have bet again, I think he probably takes it down.
Exactly, he needs to have the heart to bet the 10,000. Come on, Chris, reach for those chips.
Come on, be a lion, have a heart.
You've got the main.
Oh, and there it is. Look at that. He's reaching for the chips.
Raise. 7.
And I really think it's very, very difficult for Patrick to call this.
It's only a 7,000 bet. Might have needed slightly more than that. We're about to find out whether it's enough.
Although if Chris had a queen, maybe he wants to price his opponent in.
Good point. But he has. Patrick makes a good call. An 8 would be a nice card for Chris. The jack no good.
Jack of hearts on the river. Now this is a spot where Chris Ferguson probably wouldn't bet unless he had at least a queen in his hand. Obviously, he's going to bet a full house as well. And does Ferguson have the heart to fire a third bullet?
Patrick's checked.
Check.
Oh, and Chris doesn't fire another one.
No, he taps the table. And Patrick Antonius is going to win this with jacks and tens and an ace kicker.
I think the turn net bet needed to be slightly bigger for Chris. I think he priced Patrick in with the 7,000. 10,000 may have had the same result. He may have saved himself 3,000.
What a turnaround for Patrick Antonius here. And Chris Ferguson, by the way.
Okay.
Chris Ferguson, obviously, as you stated, was our early winner. But he is now only up about $11,000. While Patrick Antonius was down 60,000 earlier, now he's up over 60,000.
Like 2-1 for me to finish this up.
So as the chips and dollars continue to fly into the middle, we are going to pause for breath. We'll see you in just a few moments here on the FullTiltPoker.com $1 Million Cash Game. Welcome back to the FullTiltPoker.com $1 Million Cash Game in association with 50 London. We're all set. Let's get you back to your commentators, Gary Jones and David Tuckman.
So the button's on Patrick Antonius, starting with Alan Cunningham here.
2,000.
He raises it up with pocket threes.
He's not coming back on. It's okay. I'll speak to him afterwards.
Pass.
Did they tell you had to lose some money to do this? Is that what happened? Something happened.
Here comes a caller from Patrick
2,000.
Antonius.
Go here and like put some money into the game.
Patrick's going to call it the suited connector there, 7-6. He's calling for the value of his hand as much as the value of position. He's on the button there.
Queen 6 for Tony G.
So I thought you were just like throwing away the best hand all the time.
These three to the flop. Well, that's a flush draw for
Check.
Patrick Antonius. But the three's still in front.
Check.
Third pair.
Two.
You can see that even though Cunningham is in front right now, he is not a favorite to win the pot.
Being Patrick Antonius, it's up to you.
If a jack were to come, it would actually counterfeit his hand.
Check.
Let's keep it friendly, okay? You guys want to agree to check it all the way? I want to try and make a deal. To check
Well,
it
there's
all
a
the way.
6. That's absolutely killed Alan
4,000.
Cunningham's hand.
And Antonius now has 2 pair, but Tony G has a better 2 pair.
I'd have to ask for the deal. Setting this up.
No heart.
Pass.
Just like Tony said. No heart.
I was going to make
Patrick
an offer,
Antonius, who's just turned the 6, but also got the flush draw.
I would have taken it.
Cool.
He calls. Kings and aces would make it a split pot, as would 9s and 6s.
I check.
Check. Check.
Got a 6.
10 does nothing here. And Tony G is actually going to win with a better kicker. Remember, it's a 5-card game in Hold'em.
It had to be. What else could he have? I knew I was going to bet if the 10 didn't come.
Still smiling, still winning. Tony G, the mouth from down under, getting the lot right now.
Sorry about it. Don't worry too much. You're Patrick Antonius. You alright?
Brian Townsend then, seat number 8. Notoriously quiet, probably because he's an internet pro. Not used to talking to anybody. Brian Townsend plays in some of the biggest games over the world and the internet. Lives in Santa Barbara, California.
Pass. $2,001.
Raised up here from Patrick Antonius with ace-9 of clubs. Looks like a call on the button from Tony G.
Pass.
With the worst hand again, the ace-5.
My job, like to
Hasn't stopped him so far today.
That's
By the way Tony G has been
the
playing,
only way I could get into the game
either he'll steal a pot or a flop a 5.
if I made a flop happen.
No, no 5 there. King 10-4. Both players miss.
Check.
I'm always amused that the professional poker players check their cards again, as if they didn't know what they had.
Yes, you had missed that one, Tony. Didn't stop you firing at the pot and winning yet another one.
And Tony G is up almost $270,000. Can nobody stop this man?
Doesn't look that way right now.
Here we are with the ranking of the hands. First we have high card. In this case, a king high would win it. Then we have one pair. In this case, pair of aces. Then two pair. Jacks and nines will do it. Then three of a kind. Three of the same one. 3 4s. Then we have a straight. 5 cards in order, not the same suit. Then a flush. 5 cards, the same suit. 5 hearts will do it. Then we have a full house. 3 7s, 2 kings. This would be 7s full of kings. 4 of a kind. 4 kings. Then we have a straight flush. 5 cards in order, all the same suit. And here's the most beautiful hand in the world. Royal flush. 10, 2 ace, all the same suit. FullTiltPoker.net $1 million cash game in association with 50 London. The button is in front of Andy Block. Phil Ivey, the big blind. Patrick Antonius will be first to act. He's under the gun. The action has been fast and furious.
Just like the film says, yes it has. Phil Ivey on the receiving end of some big hands. Horrible runner by Patrick Antonius for a monster, nearly $300,000 pot.
Pass.
Action's over to Alan Cunningham. He's in the cutoff seat with Jack 10 offsuit. And that's good enough for him to raise. He makes it 2,000.
Pass.
Andy Block not going to play.
Pass.
Chris Ferguson not going to play.
Not many people have played it for Alan Cunningham's raises.
That's really been his story. Unfortunately, he lost that one big hand with pocket 4s.
And he's finding it very hard to get the action to get himself back to 100,000.
If you bet the flop, I raise. But when you checked, I check because I think you have very weak hands. That's why you got. Sorry? I have no value to bet that flop. I made a mistake then. If he bets, I raise. Then we get all the money in. You actually played well.
Tony G discussing strategy with Patrick Antonius.
Pass.
I couldn't do anything. I knew what I was going to do.
Tells me he's playing well. Is it a backhanded compliment there?
Pass.
It wasn't going to be anything. I mean, I had the hand.
You play really well. Thank you for your money.
Yes, he's
Pass.
very good at winding the other players up. Really part of his strategy. Get under your skin. Which round to Chris on the button.
2001.
Well, here's a new one for Chris. 8 6 of spades.
Well, he figures Ace Jack and Ace 10 aren't working for him. He'll try 8 6.
Pass.
Yeah, I want a pot.
And look at that. Chris Ferguson even says it. I want a pot.
Well, maybe you should start playing the 8 6 of spades a bit more often, Chris.
A lot of other players go out on a limb trying to exploit their opponents. So they're exploiting weaknesses in their opponents. My main thing is avoiding having weaknesses in my own game. And I think those two are two very important things you need to do.
Well, it's back round to Chris. He's now in the cut-off position, and he's got a much bigger hand than the 8 6 of spades.
2000.
He makes it 2,000 to play, gets rid of Ivey. That gives him the button.
Chris Ferguson has gone crazy here.
Pass.
Well, he's got a caller from the ace 4 of Patrick Antonius. These two to the flop. There's the ace for Patrick.
Yes, Ace 8 deuce there, rainbow board. Now Patrick's got the ace. Doesn't have much of a kicker. But last time he matched up against Antonius, Antonius kind of outplayed him. I think he's pretty wary of that. A 9 of hearts on the turn. And Chris Ferguson is actually drawing dead. He cannot win this pot. Unless, of course, he bluffs Antonius out, which I don't think is going to happen.
No, Patrick's already laid the trap again with another check. A jack or king on the end could get Patrick a bet, but no. He's played this way to get a crying call on the river. That's what he's going to try for with a 4,000 bet. Don't think it's going to happen though.
No, maybe you get the crying call if Chris had 10s or jacks, but not with king high.
I'd expect a long pause and then a pass. And that's what we've got. So that one goes to Finland and Patrick Antonius.
Now, Patrick Antonius actually lives in Vegas now, Las Vegas. So I'd like to say it goes to America.
You'd probably have to ask him that. Well, it's on Alan Cunningham. He's under the gun, and he's opening with pocket threes again. We saw him do this earlier on. Couldn't get any action.
Pass.
That's the problem with being Alan Cunningham.
Well, sometimes if you can't get enough action, the best thing to do is start opening up your range of hands. Play a couple more hands here.
Well, Patrick Antonius is on the button with ace-queen. Against most players, he may re-raise this spot. And he's going to do the same to...
7.
Same to Alan Cunningham. It's a raise of 5,000.
Now, I'm not sure if Alan Cunningham, he started the pot with $57,000. Not sure if he has enough to make this call. Small pocket pairs, you want large implied odds. Not sure if it's quite there.
Cool.
Well, he's decided to call. I think he's in a slightly better spot here than Andy Block was in the implied odds. Not much, though. And that's not really the board you're looking for with a pair of threes.
Yeah, this is the problem with threes. He's still ahead, but he has no idea. And since Antonius has position, he should be able to take the pot away.
Check from Alan.
Check.
And a check from Patrick, which is unusual once you've re-raised.
Check.
That's a really, really surprising check there from Antonius.
Well, it's gone check, check again. Alan might be starting to think his threes are good. Oh, that nine's just totally counterfeited his hand.
Now, what do you do if you're Cunningham here?
Hand check.
Well,
obviously, it's your best 5 cards, so he's got kings and 9s. With a 7 kicker, he doesn't even play.
He's kind of hoping that Patrick's going to turn over 4s.
And then ace.
Come on, you got the nuts.
You had a small pair?
Yep.
Really strange way to play the hand by Patrick Antonius, but it worked out for him.
Yes, it did. I think against anyone else, he probably makes the continuation bet. But this is Alan Cunningham. He's won around $9 million in tournament winnings. He's raced out of first position, and he's been playing pretty tight. You don't really want to get too creative against this guy.
Bit of a luck box.
Tony G is still managing to find ways to wind people up, telling Alan Cunningham that he just lost on the river.
Pass.
Phil Ivey, the big loser right now. $300,000 in the red. And he's opening it up with the 9-8 offsuit. 2,000 to play. And here comes Brian Townsend.
Raise.
A late arrival to the game. Queen 5, a big hand for Brian. He hasn't really had much in the way of cards. He's having to make his own kind of luck.
Yeah, Brian really trying to mix it up, trying to make something happen. Doesn't want to force it, though.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to push around a guy who's $300,000 in the red.
22.
He might be looking for any kind of excuse to call.
Patrick wants to stop.
Yeah, I want to quit.
And I believe we have a re-raise here from Phil Ivey.
I'll do whatever they tell me.
Wow,
Look
a
at
big
that.
re-raise from Ivey. The best hand out there was Queen 5. He was up against 9-8. You don't usually get pots of that size with those kind of hands. Phil Ivey obviously smelling a bluff from Brian.
Amazing instincts by both players.
In a cash game, you can make mistakes, or you could bluff a little bit more. You could maybe call a little bit too much, but you can benefit from that later on down the line if you're playing with the same players, because they're going to remember those mistakes and you could take advantage of them later. In a tournament, you can't take advantage of your mistakes later. Once you're done, you're done.
Welcome back. At the moment, it is Tony G who's the force to be reckoned with. Let's see if he can continue to rack up the cash as we hand back to our commentators, Gary Jones and David Tuckman.
Chris Ferguson with the suited connector up front, and he's going to make it $2,000 in first position.
Cool.
Really mixing it up here, Chris.
Pass.
If he can find some kind of flop which he connects with here, it would be great for his... ace-king for Alan Cunningham. I was about to say it would have been great for his table image.
It's an interesting spot, though. Is it an automatic raise when you get a first position raise from Chris Ferguson? I guess it is, because Alan Cunningham is re-raising this.
8-5 total.
Probably not a situation Chris Ferguson's used to. Raising in first position with suited connectors and getting re-raised.
And Alan Cunningham doing his best to claw his way back.
Pick that pot up. All he had to do was re-raise a Chris Ferguson first position raise.
The button slides on over to Alan Cunningham. Small blind. There he is, Andy, the rock block. He's really settled his game down a little bit.
Looked like he could have been busting out very, very early, losing his 100,000 initial stack. He got a nice double up to get himself back into the game, but he's been very quiet for the last few hands. Hasn't really got involved. Admittedly, there's been fireworks all around him, so it's been hard to find an excuse. Alan Cunningham on the button.
2,000.
With the ideal players to steal the blind as well on his left.
And Alan Cunningham, obviously not happy with the amount of action he's getting. He's going to start mixing it up a little more. Block's not playing many hands. Either is Ferguson. Why not steal him? Most of the field, the World Series hasn't been so lucky in recent years. 2005 World Series Poker Player of the Year. And of course in 2006, he came in 4th place in the main event.
Yeah, and with the size of fields nowadays, that's very impressive for any professional to get that distance.
21.
And Andy Block is going to play a hand. He's got Queen 10 of diamonds.
Looks like he's getting a little bit bored. They probably all noticed that he's not playing so many hands, so he's unlikely to get much action unless there's a premium hand out there.
Now Tony G might play him here. Remember Tony G bluffed him earlier.
I'm the one.
Likes to get Andy's goat.
I think he actually bluffed him with the same hand. It was 10-7 before.
Another table, another table.
That might be his motivation in calling this.
Well, it's the kind of flop he might be able to bluff in. There's a king on it.
I checked.
Check.
Well, Andy Block has flopped a flush draw here. 2 diamonds out there.
3. It was 3,000. No, I said 4. And I fold 3. I had the same hand as well. 10-7. I swear. Really. It's weird.
Andy Block bets his flush draw and takes it down.
Pass. 2,000.
Phil Ivey raising it up. 2,000 to play.
Cool.
Call from Patrick Antonius.
Cool.
Phil Ivey with 10-7 offsuit. Antonius with the King-Jack, Kojak suited.
Tony G in there as well with his 6-9 of clubs.
Cool.
And Andy Block decides to play as well with his Queen-5 of clubs. Real mix of hands out there. Someone's got to catch some of it. No. Oh, well, yes. There's a little bit there for Tony G. He goes in front.
He's got 2 pair there. 6s and deuces with a 9 kicker. Nobody else has got anything.
Check. 7.
Tony G bets $7,000 into a $9,000 pot.
The wheels are off. I had it.
Started
One
off
card.
with the worst hand.
This one?
Ended up.
No, that was the wrong one.
Ended up with the best.
And he shows everybody the 9.
He did give them their choice in which card for him to turn
was a good
over.
one there.
They just chose the wrong one.
Right, there was. Not pretending.
And Phil Ivey has had about enough of Tony G. Just seething inside. Waiting for him to climb across the table and strangle him.
Cool. Pass. Cool.
Happy for any excuse to play. Tony G's in the pod as well.
Cool.
And he's got a very good excuse, sitting there with pocket 5s. 5 players in this pot. Jack 4 on the button for Alan Cunningham.
4,000.
Ah, Chris has raised it up. 4,000 more.
Pass.
Phil's happy to get out of the way.
Cool.
Tony G's going to call him, though. He's got a couple of 5s. He thinks maybe he can win a big pot if he hits a set.
Cool.
And wow, that's a
Suited connected call from Andy Block.
Welcome to my world.
out of position there.
Well, he's caught the perfect flop for 8-7 of hearts.
That's a monster flop for Andy Block there. He's got an open-ended straight draw and a flush draw. And you can see that even though he doesn't have a pair right now, he is a favorite to win the pot.
Well, he's not going to get an opportunity to
5,000.
check raise Chris Ferguson, but he is going to get an opportunity to check raise Tony G.
All in. 53.
Well, he's moved all in, 53,000. That's a massive re-raise.
Yeah.
And you can see this here. He's a huge favorite to win, even though Tony G is actually ahead right now.
Flush.
He's saying flush.
I got pocket 5s, Andy. What do you want me to do?
Pocket 5?
Yeah.
Let's see, please.
Pocket 5s. I'm still thinking. What do you think we should do? You tell me what to do. Pocket 5s. Got flush draw with a small card. With a 5. Ace 5 of hearts. I think I should call. So I can't be much of an underdog there, not much. Take it, give it. At that.
I wanted you to call.
What have you got? Show us one time, it's good for the. Come on, don't do this. Come on.
Show one.
You won't do that, I'll call him anyway.
Last
You have your picture card on there?
For once, Tony G not getting it all his own way.
No, I didn't have that.
doesn't lie.
Phil Ivey's big blind. Patrick Antonius to act first. The button in front of Andy Block, who's still stacking his chips from the previous pot and discussing it with Alan Cunningham.
I think I wanted to call. Yeah. Pocket 5.
Patrick's calling. Brian Townsend, who's found a monster for him. He really has been card dead so far. He raises it up.
Yeah, he was late to the game and hasn't picked up much. Finally picks up ace-jack suited.
Must look like an absolute monster to him.
Pocket 8?
I know you got a big call. I'm putting out a big. I don't know you have a big call. I'm putting out a big call.
Can't call because I'm.
Yeah, you can't beat a big draw. That's your problem.
Pass.
I can't say I'm not, but
You gave me a chance to. I should have called.
Round to Phil Ivey. Everyone else passes. It's back to the limper Patrick Antonius.
I nearly had. I mean, I had with the dead money, 20.
Cool.
He calls, and it's these two to the flop. An ace for Brian.
Yeah, not much there for Antonius. Ace, queen, 3 rainbow. Antonius has got no pair, no draw.
5.
He checks. Townsend's going to bet this and probably take it down.
It happens. You made a mistake? you want to run it? Yeah.
Throws them away quickly before he does anything too reckless. And Brian Townsend's going to win that one with the first real genuine hand we've seen him have.
Now Brian Townsend down about $20,000 for the day. After 128 hands of the $1 million cash game, Tony G is still running the show. He's got over $400,000 in front of him, up over $250,000. Patrick Antonius has done a really good job coming around. He's up over $63,000. Chris Ferguson only up $300. Where has it all gone? But wow, Phil Ivey, last year's winner in the $1 million cash game, is down almost $300,000.
Well, that's it for tonight's show. We have seen some sharp shooting from some of the most notorious names in cards. We'll hope to see you next time here on the FullTiltPoker.com $1 million cash game. But from all of us for now, it's goodbye.